Hey, YouTube, welcome back to TXC Tells All. So, if you're asking yourself, should or can my employer require that I take the COVID-19 vaccine? You need to watch this video till the end. I'm an employment lawyer and I'm going to be talking about what I think about that, what the law says about that. Is it okay? Is it legal? Can your employer say you have to take the COVID-19 vaccine or you're out of here? Watch this video if you want to talk about that and want to know the answer to that question. All right, so before we jump into it, I need to put this legal disclaimer out there. I am an employment attorney by trade, but I'm not your lawyer. So you're watching this video, I'm giving you information about the COVID-19 vaccine as it relates to an employer requiring you to take it for work. But if you really need legal advice, watch this video as a place to start to get information on what the law has to say about that. But I can't provide you legal advice in this video. So if you need more help with this, if you really feel like you need an attorney, I would advise you to reach out to an attorney in your area, an employment attorney that's familiar with the laws and COVID-19 in particular, to make sure you get the help you need with that. So now that I got that disclaimer out the way, let's first talk about an employer saying, hey, you have to take the COVID-19 vaccine now or you are fired. Can they do that? So, under federal law, an employer can require that you take the COVID-19 vaccine. Now, is there issues with that? Are there ways around that? Yes. And as an employment lawyer doing a wrongful termination and discrimination, I can tell you that there are ways around that, but they are limited. So let's first talk about a disability. If you have a disability or you have a medical condition that's set and your doctor is saying, I don't think it would be safe for you to take the COVID-19 vaccine, that is one of the exceptions to an employer requiring you to take that vaccine. Now, that doesn't mean that the employer still can't say, I'm making all of my employees take this vaccine and you have to too. Then the next step for you, if you have a disability or you have a medical condition where your doctor is saying, I don't advise you to take that vaccine medically, I think you might be in danger because of your condition, you need to let your employer know that right away. And the way you do that is put it in writing to preferably human resources, or if your job doesn't have a human resources department, to your manager, and let them know this is my medical condition and I need what's called a reasonable accommodation. To basically, you're saying, I want to be accommodated. I can't take the COVID-19 vaccine because of my medical condition, and I need to be accommodated not to have to do that. In addition to letting them know that, the best thing that you can do for your case in saying, I can't take this COVID-19 vaccine, is to get a doctor's note from your doctor. It makes your case stronger if you do that. Now, if you can't, you just tell your employer, start there. But the best thing to do is to get that doctor's note from your doctor saying that. Now, the biggest part about requesting a reasonable accommodation is making sure that you give your employer as much information as you can of why you need the accommodation, what your disability is, and doctor's notes to back it up. That's going to put you in the best position to say, this is the reason why I'm requesting this reasonable accommodation. What the law says is that the employer has to engage in what's called an interactive process with you to determine if they can accommodate you. So your employer just can't say, okay, no, we're not doing it. If they fall under the Americans with Disabilities Act and they have to abide by that federal law, and most states have a counterpart that is the same anti-discrimination law based on disability discrimination. Here in Texas, it's called the Texas Commission on Human Rights Act. They have to engage in the interactive process and say they're having a conversation with you about what they can do. Can they accommodate it? If they can't, why not? For example, if they're requiring you to get the COVID-19 vaccine, they may be saying, well, you work in a safety sensitive position where you're in contact with the public. For example, obviously, healthcare workers. If you're working for a healthcare agency, for example, and you're working with patients that have are immunocompromised, and they're saying, well, in order to keep our patients safe, we have to require that all our employees have the COVID-19 vaccine, not just our nurses, but even our administrative staff. That might be a reason that the employer is saying, we received your request for a reasonable accommodation, but we just can't honor it. So they actually have to have a conversation with you and say why they can't accommodate your request. I can tell you guys, I'm getting a lot of calls in my business, my law firm, with potential clients saying, well, I asked my employer to not, require me to take the COVID-19 vaccine. And when I asked them, well, what was your reasoning? They just say, it's a personal decision. I just don't want to do that. There's not enough information about the vaccine, and I'm just not ready to go ahead and do that. Unfortunately, under federal law, that's not enough. They're saying that employers can require you to take the COVID-19 vaccine. And in order for you to even have a fighting chance to avoid taking it, if that's not what you want to do, you need to fall under one of these exceptions. Disability could be one of them. But still, again, that doesn't guarantee that your employer might still say, no, we think because of the industry that we're working in, because of the contact that you have with our clients or patients or customers, we're still going to require it and we can't accommodate you. What's your move to do next? I mean, honestly, employer can terminate you if they decide that they can't make that accommodation. They're still going to require everybody to take the COVID-19 vaccine. And your next step really would be to contact an attorney and see if you have a viable wrongful termination suit for, let's say, disability discrimination. Or the next thing I'm going to talk about, religious discrimination. And that's the other possible exception to a requirement that an employer say you have to take the COVID-19 vaccine to work here. Okay, so next we have a religious exception. So there can be an exception if, because of your religious beliefs, you are saying that you cannot take the COVID-19 vaccine. You would tell your employer what your religion is, and the same way in the disability discrimination context, you need to tell the employer what your medical condition is, provide doctor's notes in order to see if you can get a reasonable accommodation to not take the COVID-19 vaccine. The same with the religious discrimination or the religious exception. You need to tell the employer what your religion is, and that because of that religion, it's against your religious beliefs to take the COVID-19 vaccine, or in some religions, any vaccine for that matter, and that you're asking for an accommodation based on your religious beliefs. So religion and disability, those are going to be two of the strongest arguments to try to get an exception to taking the COVID-19 vaccine. But it's not going to be an automatic thing, automatically because you say you're medically unable, or because of your religious beliefs, you're not taking it. The employer can still fire you. So where does that leave you? Good news in Texas. Well, let me not say good news, but for people who don't want to take the COVID-19 vaccine, Governor Abbott has issued an executive order as of October 11, 2021, saying that employers cannot require employees to take the COVID-19 vaccine. So here in Texas, where I am, Governor Abbott has said that employers cannot require employees to do that. Does that conflict with the federal mandate? Absolutely. What's going to happen about it? We'll have to wait and see. I'm definitely going to do a follow-up video to see, to talk about in the law what's happening with Texas versus the federal government. Texas has already filed a lawsuit against President Biden for mandating, or for saying that employers can mandate employees to take the COVID-19 vaccine. So it's early in the game. We need to see how that develops. But here in Texas, there is an executive order saying that an employer can't require an employee to take that. So if you are in Texas, that is something that you might be able to assert in addition to disability exception or religious exception. But we have to see what happens. A lot of states are at will states anyway, which means that an employer can fire you for any reason as long as it's not discriminatory. So if an employer is saying, I'm firing you because you won't take the COVID-19 vaccine, and they have required everyone in their workforce to take the COVID-19 vaccine, you might just still not have a wrongful termination case because of the at will nature of employment here in Texas and in a lot of other states as well. So Bottom line, if an employer requires you to take the COVID-19 vaccine and you do have a disability where your doctor is saying you shouldn't, or you have a religious belief that it's against your religious beliefs, make sure that you tell that to your employer and make sure that you put it in writing. If they still fire you, at least now you have that evidence that you did say, "Hey, this is the reason why I cannot or won't take the COVID-19 vaccine." And if you want to pursue legal action for wrongful termination, you can tell your lawyer, if you're seeking legal representation to do that, that you did put in writing to your employer so they knew and they can't claim that, oh, well, we didn't know why this person wasn't taking the COVID-19 vaccine. Thanks for watching. I hope this video was helpful and gave you some information on COVID-19 vaccination requirements. If you like this video, make sure you hit that like button and also hit subscribe. I also have some other videos on COVID-19 in the workplace and also on leave from work if you actually get COVID and what options are available to you. So if you need more information on that kind of stuff, make sure you check out our other videos. Thanks so much.